Is Nick Fuentes the enemy? Some thoughts from France and Wales. In the course of producing a series of podcasts on conservative or ultranationalist American thinkers, influencers, commentators, and comparing them to their counterparts in England and France, a friend of mine gave me a very bad time yesterday about what he saw as me taking Nick Fuentes' sides, or the English nationalist side in this, by exposing their ideas to neutral scrutiny, by which I mean understanding them on their own terms. And this stance was objected to because the enemy is fascism. No quarter can be conceded. The only way to deal with them is to crush them. Electorally, in the first instance, but you can see where this is going, although my friend didn't propose that we violently crush Abraham Lincoln and the Confederacy style crush. Now, I take a different view, and I think I need to explain why, because a great number of my friends are liberals and are very disapproving of what I'm trying to do here. And the way I explain this is by reference to a little invention of mine called the Welsh razor. The Welsh razor, it borrows an expression from an English philosopher who invented his own razor, Occam, medieval. And my Welsh razor is different. My Welsh razor works like this. Person A enters the room and announces an opinion. And the Welsh person, these are two Welsh people talking, the Welsh person B asks, "Oh, why is that? Tell me about it." Now, the hypothetical, stereotypical American or English reaction to this is interesting. A walks in, Welsh person again perhaps, and says, "I'm thinking about X. And this is the conclusion I've come." And the American or the English person says, "That's stupid, you're wrong, this is what you should say and think." Now, the impulse in the American inheritance from England is that my opinions are not only my opinions, that they are true because they are mine. And it also follows that nobody else's opinions are true unless they go along with mine. So confronted with a different opinion, one opposes it. One attacks the person ad hominem, saying he's a bad character or inattentive, doesn't know his facts, or this whole elaborate rhetoric of insisting on a single point of view, mine, to the exclusion of all else. Now, this is not the Welsh razor approach. The Welsh razor approach is this. Someone comes in with an opinion, Welsh or otherwise, Mr. A, and B listens, and then repeats A's opinion, and keeps repeating it until A is content that B is able to at least verbalize and perhaps even understand A's position. The whole game is about the accurate understanding of someone else's position as measured by the judgment of the original person. Now, this you don't find very often in the Anglosphere. This ability to listen, repeat, convince the original person that I understand his ideas. Now, there's a story I tell that may be useful here. When I was in Japan and I was reading from the Japanese media, one of my bosses discovered that I could read Japanese. And he came in with a text and he said, "I'd like you to translate this." And it was by a right-wing Japanese, what we would now call influencer. At the time, he was an intellectual commentator. And so I did it. I looked at the text, read the text, translated the text, gave it back to the text. Now, the context of this was that another Japanese media outlet had produced a translation in English of the Japanese original, and the author, the Japanese author, was so unhappy with it that he wouldn't allow it to be published. So it came to our turn, and my boss therefore brought it to me and said, "You do it," and I did it. Now, my approach was read the thing carefully, understand the argument as well as I could, and then put it into the kind of English that the author would have put it in English if he was a native speaker. So, this time, did the process. My boss took the copy to the Japanese author. The Japanese author was very pleased. We ended up running the piece. So, one person was happy, the Japanese author. By the standards of the Welsh razor, I had listened carefully to what Eto Jun had said, in this case written. I had reproduced accurately what he had said to his satisfaction, and it was job done. Now, my boss was pleased for another reason. First, we made a success of it. That's good. We ran the piece. But he said, "You're the only person on staff who would have done this." And I thought, why? He says, "But all of the others detest Eto Jun and will not translate his work. They think that it is giving oxygen, media oxygen, publicity, to bad ideas." And I said, "But that's not my job. My job is to translate Eto Jun's ideas as accurately as I'm able, and then let the marketplace of ideas, if you will, make its own mind up. But we're never going to have this game is never going to work unless we have an accurate understanding of what exactly this Japanese thinker was arguing." Now, this is a Welsh perspective in the sense that we really, really believe in understanding reality as it is. And we're not threatened because maybe the ideas are controversial, maybe even they're threatening, but we have to accurately understanding before we can make any sensible approach to solving anything. And this goes back to why I'm doing this series on Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes, as I've described, came to me out of right wing. It's not my world. I'm not a right winger. Even when I was conservative, I wasn't conservative like this. And then I began to listen and began to understand better what he was on about. And this I found really revealing, instructive. It was stimulating to understand things like this. And this willingness to understand and this curiosity, shall we call it, about foreign ideas, for lack of a better thing, is consistently has a Welsh dimension that I've just described. And the French dimension is that I think, despite the clamor on the left for canceling ideas, even in France, the broad French tradition is if an idea is really interesting, it deserves a certain respect, regardless of what you think about it. There's a certain openness here. Ideas are taken seriously. And before an idea is judged to be good or bad morally, it's asked, does it have intellectual power? Is it incisive? Is it well expressed? Does it tell us something about the world that we might not otherwise know? And that stance has also influenced my approach. So I've got two currents reinforcing this, one French, one Welsh. And it sets it against the American and English approach because the American and English approach is contrast, a difference, opposed to this. Fight them in the streets and on the beaches. You can see where we're going here. Anyway, that's why I'm doing this series on Fuentes and keeping an eye on his English equivalents, white nationalists in England, because I think we need to understand this, and I think we need a better understanding if we're on the left, and we need a better understanding as human beings, thinking human beings, because it's part of our world and an influential part. But that's my take, not everybody's take. But that's where we need to go if we're going to get anywhere. Thought for the day.